Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Department of Marketing. Uh, I'm Dr. Ajimesh. I will take the lectures Research Methodology in Marketing, BBAM through 1013. So, it's a very interesting subject, and it's a very necessary subject for you, not only for the research methodology subject. And for your research work also, these subjects will help you. That's why you have to pay attention to the subject carefully. So let's start. So introduction to research, right? Introduction to research. Research is a systematic process of gathering. I think you all know that. Sometime you heard about, right? So the research. Uh, so then, what is research? You may have these questions always. Research is a systematic process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information. Right? Research is a uh, systematic process. So then, process, there are different activities, right? Sequential basis. There are some activities involved in the process. So that's why it is a systematic process of gathering, right? Systematically gathering the data. Then you all know that for the research, data is important, right? Data is important. So that's why they want to gather the data. So there are different ways available. Later we can discuss about what are the data gathering methods available. So then systematically gathering the data. After gathering the data, so then they want to analyze the data, right? After gathering the data, analyzing the data. Analyzing means doing some calculations, interpretations like that. So do some analysis. And after that, interpretation of information based on the calculations, and then they can get some right results, and then they try to do some interpretations. So first of all, then they gather the data, then they do some analysis, and after that, the data become as a information. So then that information, they want to interpret it to answer specific questions or solve problem. So then that is important. You all know that why they are conducting the research, right? The answer is they may have some problem, they may have some questions. Now they want to find the answer to the questions or the problem. They want to solve the problem. So that's why they gather the data and analyze the data and interpret the data. So then now you can understand this is simple uh, meaning of the research is a systematic process of gathering, analyzing, interpreting information for what? To answer a specific questions, right? They may have, before they start the research, they may try to identify some problem. And from that problem, they may have some questions to be answered. So then they don't have any information to answer. That's why they systematically gather the data and analyze the data and get some information from the data and interpret it to answer the questions already they have identified their problem, or they want to have an answer to solve the problem. This is the simple meaning of the research. So research is not a haphazard or random activity, right? So it follows a well-defined organized process. As I mentioned here, research is not a haphazard or random. That means it is not a kind of a random activity or without any systematic way. They cannot find any answers, right? So then that's why normally research, normally we can say is a systematic activity. It follows a well-defined and organized process, right? It well-defined and organized process. That means already they identified the problem and then they define the process to find the solution to that problem. And it begins with a clear objective or a specific questions, right? So that's why, as I said earlier, research starts or begins with a clear objective or specific question that needs to be answered or problem that requires a solution, right? It begins with a clear objective or specific questions that needs to be answered or problem that require a solution. So simply we can say a researcher might want to understand the effect of a new teaching method on student outcomes or student performance, right? Again, I am telling a researcher might want to understand the effects of new teaching method on students' performance. Therefore, the clear objective could be determine if the new teaching method improve test scores among high school students compared to traditional methods. So like that, they may have a clear, right, objectives. What is objective? Because they want to find the answers whether new teaching methods can make any significant improvement in students' performance. Because they want to introduce a system, but they don't know whether that new methods can have any significant improvement or impact on student performance. So then this is the question. So this is their problem, but they want to find the solution. Therefore, clear objective. Then they want to have a clear objectives. Determine if the new teaching methods improves test scores among high school students compared to traditional methods, or to investigate whether new teaching methods improve the test scores among the students compared to traditional methods. Like that, they may have a objective. Now you can understand this is the objectives. In marketing point of view also, they can have some problem. They want to, because they are going to introduce a new promotional strategy, but they want to make sure whether that new promotional strategy can improve the sales performance. So they don't know whether that new promotional strategy can make any improvement or impact on the sales. So that's why they want to make sure, right? Then they can conduct a research, right? So then to conduct the research, they may have objectives. What may be their objectives? The objectives may be to examine the impact of new promotional strategy on sales performance. So that's why this is the clear objective. They have a clear objective. So then systematically they can have some gather the data about this promotion and their performances. That means sales, whether after uh, implementing that promotion, is there any change in the sales performance like that? They can gather the data, they can analyze, and they can find the uh, information. From that information, they can get the answer whether that promotion really improve the sales or really it is not make any change or like that. So then now you can understand having a clear objectives. Another one, gathering information involves, gathering information involves collecting data. As I said, gathering information means, first of all, the data. Maybe data means without any further process or analysis, raw data, right? Some numbers or figures without any process, we can call it as a data. So then gathering that data or evidence that is relevant to the research questions. That is relevant to the research questions. So the research questions, so as we discussed earlier, whether the new promotional strategy will make any improvement in the sales performance. This is the questions. So then what type of data they want to have? They want to have a data about the promotional strategies and data they want to have about the sales performance. So then only they can compare with that and they can get the answer to that questions. This data can come from various sources, right? So then there are different sources available to collect the data: experiments, right? Surveys, observations, existing literature, and more, right? So then you may think about what is that experiment. Experiment, you all know that conducting controlled trials. Trials means it's a kind of activities in a controlled environment, controlled trials, where one group of right customer is uh, expected to get the sales or the purchase, and another one with the promotion. That means they may have a two groups. To one groups, they right to uh, give the chance to involved in the promotional activities, and they do some promotion to that group. Another group, uh, uh, here without any promotion, right? They try to market. So then they can understand, is there any difference between the sales? Because if it is the uh, promotion is really impacting, definitely the people who are exposing to the promotion can purchase more compared to the group where there is no any promotion involved, right? So like that, as we discussed, the new teaching methods, conducting a control trials, right? Control trials. Trial means experiment technique, right? Control trials, where one group of students is taught using the new method. So then they are giving a uh, they are using the new methods and teaching to the one group. Another group using the traditional method, without using a new method. In a traditional way, they write to teach. So then after that, they conduct the exam to two groups, and then they can make sure whether is there any improvement in the test scores of these two groups. So that's why it's a kind of an experiment. Now you can understand conducting a control trials, right? With a different groups. For one group, so control group means then they try to do some experiments, whether they are going to do some uh, changes, but other groups without any change. Another one is the surveys. Surveys, distributing questionnaires to students and teachers to gather their opinions and experiences with the new teaching methods, right? So normally surveys, you all know that it is a large scale data collecting method. Here, usually they are distributing the questionnaires. The questionnaires may have a relevant questions related to the specific research problem or questions, and then they distributing the questionnaires to students and teachers to gather their opinions and experiences with the new teaching method. The experiments means they try to teach the students the two different groups, one with the new methods, another one traditional methods. Another method of data collection to understand the effect of new teaching methods. Then they uh, sometimes using the teaching with the new method. After the teaching, they try to get the feedback from the students about the teaching methods. Then they try to improve they try to distribute the survey questions. So then how do you feel? Are you comfortable? Is it clear? Right? So whether it is useful like that, then they can give their ideas. At the same time, the questionnaire or the survey, they can ask their test scores as well. So then they are comparing it. Sometimes they are getting the information from the teachers as well. So the same thing as we discussed for the marketing also, they can issue the questionnaire to the right. They write to initiate some promotion activities. After that, they send the questionnaire or distribute the questionnaire to the target customers, and the customers can give their ideas and opinions about the promotion, whether it is really interesting, they are really attracted towards, it is very useful, right? So like that, they can ask some questions, and from that they can understand whether that new promotional strategies are effective or not. Another method of data collection is the observations, right? Observations. Observation, you all know that just they are observing. So then according to our example about the new teaching method, observing the classroom where the new teaching method is being implemented to see how students are engaging and participating, right? Observing classroom where the new teaching method is being implemented. That means when they are implementing the new method, also they try to observe to see how students are engaging and participating, whether they are sleeping or they are very actively participating, eagerly participating, engaging. Then by observation, they can understand this really the new method is effective. Sometimes students are not talking, sometimes they feel sleep, and sometimes they are talking among them. This indicate that that method is not effective. So that's why observations. The same thing for the marketing example also. When they try to introduce a new promotional strategies, then they can observe uh, whether people during this promotion or after the promotion, whether they are interested to purchase, asking some questions, whether they are engaging or attracted towards, like that, they can observe, right? So then this is also another method to collect the data. And another one is the existing literature. Literature in the sense, normally we use kind of a scholarly work like a research articles, textbooks, some other materials in a, right, scholarly work. Normally we call it as a literature. So the reviewing previous studies, simply we can say studies. Normally we refer studies mean research, right? Reviewing previous studies, right? So then collecting the previous studies and reading it, reviewing previous studies, and academic papers. Papers also normally we refer it as a research papers on different teaching methods and their outcomes related to our example. They can study uh, the researches related to the new teaching methods. So then previous researchers have published their research work or studies. Then they try to review it, review. That means they are reading and getting some important points of that new teaching method. So then they can get some idea, opinions, information by uh, reviewing the literature. So the same thing for the marketing example as we discussed. If they are going to introduce any promotional strategies, then they try to read the research related to that literature. So that means advertising, social media marketing, right? Online marketing, content creation, viral marketing, like that. If they are going to introduce, they can review the research or scholarly work related to that advertisements, and then they can understand whether that particular advertisement strategies are appropriate to the particular sales or businesses or marketing, and then they can gather the data. So the gathering information is another important aspect. So then we can understand that. Another one is the once the data is collected, it's need to be analyzed to make a sense of it, analyzing it. So this involves applying appropriate techniques to process and make sense of the information gathered. Right? This involves applying appropriate techniques to process and make sense of the information gathered. So now we can understand there are different analytical methods available, then they can use the appropriate one to analyze the data. So, data analysis mean using a statistical software. Nowadays, you heard about SPSS, NVO, SATA, Smart PLS, right? So then these are the common or popular statistical softwares available related to the marketing studies. So then using statistical software to compare the test scores. Test scores means we try to gather the data from the uh, experiments and from the surveys, observations, we gather the data. Normally, we sometimes refer it as a scores as well. So then, according to our example, here test score is the normal students after getting the lesson, right? Teachers using the new teaching methods, students sit for the exam and after that they score some marks, then they compare that. That's why using the statistical software to compare the test scores before and after the new teaching method to see if there is a significant improvement. So that's why before teaching the students, they conduct the exam and the students score some score, right? And after that, they introduce a new teaching methods and teaching the students. After that method, conduct the exam to the same student, and again, students score the scores of marks. Now they are comparing that two marks, and they can understand definitely if the new teaching methods have an impact, the students' marks should be increased, right? So analyzing the survey responses to identify common themes or patterns in student feedback also. Another that is maybe the qualitative methods. So the quantitative methods, because the data we will discuss about. There are two types of data analysis. One is the qualitative method, another one is the quantitative method. Normally in the quantitative methods, the data always numerics, figures, facts, like these are all numbers or something. So then they are incorporating that numbers, and that is called as the quantitative data. Another one is the qualitative data. Qualitative data is normally is involves the kind of opinion and their feedback. So normally this is in a textual form. Then they write to analyze. That also possible using some software to analyze to identify, because identify the common themes and patterns from student feedback according to our example. uh, Introducing a new teaching methods to the students. After that, they issue some questionnaire and asking some question to get the feedback. Students can mention the every student. So most of the students can mention this method is very effective. So then they can identify the common idea is effective. Sometimes some students, most of the students can say this method is not compatible to us. It is a little bit difficult like that. Then that also common pattern. We can understand common pattern in the sense of majority of the answers may be similar, right? So then we can get that also. We can get whether this is useful, effective, or difficult like that. We can get the answer. Another one is the coding observational data to quantify the frequency of certain behaviors. So that's also we can observe, right? So observe while we are observing, what we can do, we can observe some actions, activities. Then we try to convert that actions into numbers. We can call it as a coding, right? Some students, say for example, 40 students are there in the class. Only right, two students are sleeping and 48 are active, and five students are answering questions. Rest of them are not answering questions. So like that. So then now we convert that actions to five, like that. We the actions we write to allocate some numbers or coding, we call it as a coding observational data to quantify the frequency of certain behaviors, right? To quantify the frequency of certain behaviors. So then based on this analysis, we can get this information. Normally we call it as organized process. The research is planned and methodical, right? Methodical in the sense systematic way. Each step is designed to build on the previous one, right? So then data collection, problem identification, data collection, and do some analysis, interpretation, everything, the steps are involved. So then each step is designed to build on the previous one, ensuring or make sure that the final results are reliable and valid, right? So if the data analysis reveals or gives that the new teaching method significantly improves test scores, right? New teaching method significantly improves test scores. The researcher can confidently report these findings, right? Researcher can confidently report these findings like new teaching methods have some sort of a significant impact or improvements. So if the results are inconclusive, right? So finally they can conclude it. The researcher might refine the research questions or methodology and conduct further studies, right? If the results are inconclusive, that means they cannot come to the conclusion because there is no any valid point to identify the improvement in the new teaching methods, or there in a marketing example, there is no any significant results about the promotional campaigns impact on the performance of the sales. So then we can say it is inconclusive, right, results. So then what they can do, again, they refine the research questions and methodology, different data collection methods or methodology they can use. And again, they want to do the research to find the conclusion or right to get the valid results. So then these are the some steps, right, according to this example. So you can understand this is normally basic idea behind the test. So it involves structured approach to acquiring knowledge, right? Then it involves structured approach to acquiring knowledge using established methodologies and drawing valid conclusion. So the research is not a random or ad hoc activity. Research is not a random. At random, without any proper right method, here and they are taking is that's why uh, this is not a random. That means here and there, they don't do the research. They do the research in a systematic way. Ad hoc means activity sometimes according to the situation or temporal situation they can do, but actually research is not like that. It follows a structured approach that includes the planning, execution, and evaluation phases, right? That's why that structured approach to acquiring the knowledge. Structured approach to acquiring knowledge. So research follows a detailed plan, right? Research allows a detailed plan rather than being random or done on ad hoc way, right? Research follows a detailed plan. Then they have a plan. Plan, we all know that in advance, they decide based on the objectives what they are going to do in a sequence way, following a steps, 5 steps. This approach ensures that each step logically leads to the next. So then sequence or steps, logical steps, creating coherent, right? A coherent and comprehensive understanding of the topic. So when you see some example, a researcher studying climate change impacts on agriculture, right? A researcher studying a climate change impacts on agriculture because now you all know that climate suddenly changing So then it definitely makes some impact on agriculture. Then the researcher want to study about the climate change, impact of climate change on agriculture, right? So then he might start with the literature review to understand what is already known. So the literature review already, as I said, reviewing the previous studies related to the climate change. So then when they review the previous studies, they can find some points, right? When they try to review the previous studies, they can find some points, understand about what is climate change, right? How it is impacting, what they can do to prevent the severe impact on agriculture like that. The previous, that's why literature review. Normally in the research, it's a very, very important step is that doing a literature review. So then design experiments or model to test specific hypotheses about how different crops respond to changing temperatures and precipitation patterns. Like according to this example, the terms now we use hypothesis also we can understand, right, to find the association between the different variables. Association means a connection or link that also we can find. Simple example, the promotional strategy impacts on the sales performance. We can conclude, uh, we can assume that uh, social media advertisements impacts on the sales. Then this is we assume the social media advertisements make some impacts on the sales. So that means simply increase the sales. So this is assumption. We can write this assumption in a statement like a hypothesis. The hypothesis means the kind of a statement of the relationship between the variable. According to our example, um, this say social media promotion impacts on sales performance. This is a hypothesis. Then they can have a model. Model means including the variables together to find the associations or relationship, right? So then this is a way then they try to do the literature survey about the social media advertisements. Already there are a lot of researches available, previous studies available. One researcher can review the previous researches related to the social media advertisements. They can understand what is social media advertisement, what are the advertisements pattern available, content available, media selection, timing, and its impact, everything they can understand. After that, they can create that hypothesis or model uh, to understand or test is there any relationship. So then establishing the methodologies, right? After that, establishing the methodologies to refer to the recognized and accepted methods and techniques, right? Established methodologies refer to the recognized and accepted method because there are a lot of research methodologies available. We cannot use all the methodologies randomly. We cannot select something, and we have to find appropriate accepted methods and techniques used in a particular field of study, right? These methodologies ensure that the research is conducted in a rigorous and reliable manner, right? Rigorous and reliable manner. Then there are the recognized and accepted method within a particular field, especially in the marketing field. Researchers use to ensure their work is rigorous and credible, right? Their work is rigorous and credible. So these methodologies might include specific type of experiment, statistical analysis, data collection techniques. As we discussed previously, it may be observation studies or experimental studies or survey questionnaire, and statistical analysis also may be try to find the association If they want to find the association, they can do the correlation analysis. If they want to find any impact, they can do for the regression analysis. If they want to explore the factors, they can go for a factor analysis. Like that, appropriate statistical analysis they can use. And or data collection techniques also, as I said, the different type of survey methods or something else, they can use it. Normally, in the medical research, randomized control trials are an established methodology for testing the efficacy of new treatments. As we said, if they are going to introduce a new drugs, so then they use to the drugs to the control groups. A certain group of people, they are giving the drugs and then try to observe them to get the results. Another group, without giving the drugs, they observe their health condition. So then it is a way then they can do that. By randomly assigning a participant to treatments or control groups, researcher can reduce the bias and make more accurate conclusion. So marketing also, then they can do that in a control groups, select some group and they try to give some advertisement to them. And after that, they observe their behavior actions, right? So this is based on the research. They can decide, right? Another one, proving uh, valid conclusions means that the findings and results of the research are accurate, reliable, and supported by the evidence collected, right? So that's why finding the conclusion, drawing the conclusion, right, means that the findings and the results of the research are accurate, reliable, and supported by the evidence collected. Because they can conclude, but the conclusion should support based on the evidence. Simply based on their imagination or curiosity, they cannot conclude. When they are concluding the conclusion, that conclusion should supported by the evidence collected. This involves careful analysis, interpretation, and validation of the data, right? Validation of the data. So that's why the goal of the research is to produce findings. Normally, what is the goal of the research? To produce the findings that are accurate and reliable. Very accurate. The finding should be accurate and reliable. They can rely on that. This means the conclusion drawn from the data must be supported by robust evidence and sound reasoning. Right? Robust evidence and sound reason. So that's why exam. After collecting and analyzing data on customer, right? Uh, about after the implementation of some social media marketing, uh, the researcher might conclude that client, uh, these advertisements are more effective, right? This conclusion would be based on the statistical analysis showing significance, right, impact on the consumers after the advertisements, right? That means it's definitely impact to increase the purchase intention and sales, right? So then altogether, today we discuss about the basic idea about the research from this example. You can understand defining the research question, reviewing the existing literature, that means the planning. Then execution, collecting the data according to the plan methods, right? And then evaluation, that means analyzing the data, interpreting the results, and drawing the conclusion, right? So these structured approach and methodologies, researchers can ensure their findings are valid and reliable, contributing to meaningful knowledge to their fields. So then today we can stop here. We will continue from the next class. Thank you.